episode 1 of the Gorilla Report. My name is Ollie Harper and we are back. Can you believe it, folks? Season 2, episode 1, we're back doing everything wrestling, professional wrestling. The latest professional wrestling talk show to hit youtube.com is finally back on your computer monitors because you know what? I'm glad we're back. The reason the show got cut originally was because my hard drive packed up on the old laptop that I was running these on, and it was very much a few weeks it took for me to really kind of start getting things back into place. Fortunately, I did have a few interviews that I've been able to kind of release, and that's kind of what's going to be really kicking off Season 2. The first 2 interviews that we've got for Season 2 include one with perhaps one of the best in Europe at the moment, in Noam Dar. This gentleman has had some of the most fantastic matches with the likes of Davey Richards. I'm talking John Morrison, AJ Styles, Johnny Gargano. He has had tremendous matches with all of these guys, and he's one of these that I will definitely be saying is going to be making big moves in years to come. He's the first gentleman that we've got on the show for the next 2 weeks. Then we have managed to get in touch also, another big interview, another 2-parter with former WWE, former TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling star Lance Hoyt. He's going to be on the show as well. So very much the show is, we're just kind of getting it back, and we're trying to get it back steady and gradually. But they're the 2 interviews we've already got ready to go, and we're going to be releasing them in the next few weeks. In terms of the Gorilla Report, this season we really want to push it to the new limits. We want to take this show to heights that we couldn't think it could go to. Season 1 was tremendous. I mean, who we managed to get on Season 1? People like former WWE star Rene Dupree, Brian Cage from PWG, the Alpha Female, who's currently doing some great things over in Japan, as well as Rene Dupree, Joey Legend, Mark Haskins, Brian Elliott, and Season 1, I'm very grateful for everybody that, was able to come on the show on Season 1. It was a tremendous outing, and I'm very grateful for every single one of them who did do that. It was much appreciated from the bottom of my heart. Now, in terms of Season 2, it's going to be more Skype interviews. I know you folks love the interviews, you love it. It's that one of them parts of the show that you folks really do look forward to. Of course, we are also going to try and get more interactive with the show. Of course, we're going to be sticking on with Twitter interaction. We've also got the Gorilla Report Facebook page, which we are now really wanting to start pushing. So please, if you haven't already liked us on Facebook, go over to the Gorilla Report Facebook page, give us a like, show your support, and hopefully we can really keep standing and keep rocking and rolling into the end of 2013, going on into 2014, because you know what, this show, if it wasn't for you guys out there to watch this show, then I wouldn't be doing this show. This is something, it's for the fans, it's by the fans. I know I always say that, but I mean it. And other things that we're going to be looking to do on this show this season is more of the sit-down live interviews where I go to shows, and hopefully we can get like a backstage sort of thing where I can sit down with some of the top talent over here in the UK, international talent that come over up to our shores. That's the story. I mean, what was meant to happen, and I know I put a thing out for it, but T-Bone was actually going to be on the season finale for Season 1. It was going to be the live sit-down interview for the the season finale for the show, and what happened was, unfortunately, because my laptop went, we lost the footage, and it was a bit of a shit. But you know what? I spoke to T-Bone, I apologised for what happened, and he was very cool about it, very professional, and we are looking to get T-Bone back on the show for another sit-down interview, same format as what you did see a little snippet in that trailer that I did release, and we're going to get him back on at some point on Season 2. But yes, we've got several big things in the pipeline for Season 2. But when we come back after this, folks, we're going to be doing Twitter interaction, and also, like I say, Noam Dar is going to be on the show later on for the first of quite a tremendous interview. We'll be back in just a little bit. folks, it is now Twitter interaction time. This part of the show is where we can get in touch with all of the great Gorilla Report fans out there. And this week it is WWE related. I put out on Twitter earlier on in the week, in this current climate in the WWE, should there only be one main WWE title that everyone goes after now? We wanted to try and get a little bit of an argument, a bit of a debate on what people's perception is of the way you've got two belts now in the WWE. Now, the first tweet I got in is from @CharlieWWE, and the tweet reads, "No, I don't think so. Having two world titles means there is more of a chance for the younger superstars." I do understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, over the last couple of years, that World Heavyweight title, when was the last time you could say, you know what, that was a damn good World Heavyweight Championship match? There's never, I think that belt has been passed around so many times that it's really lost a lot of prestige in a lot of ways, and it's quite sad to say. I mean, I remember the days when that belt was the Triple H belt, or that belt was carried by the likes of Batista, The Undertaker, you know, Shawn Michaels, Edge, you know, and now it's just being given to the guys on the upper mid card on SmackDown. And for me, somebody like Alberto Del Rio, no one's really talking about Alberto Del Rio at the moment. It's all focused on the main WWE title storyline with Bryan and Orton. I mean, Del Rio's like meant to be a champion on his, doing what he's doing, and he's just very forgettable. And I think with Del Rio, he is a guy that has been doing the same routine for the last couple of years, and I think he's starting to get a little bit stale. When Del Rio first came into the mix, I was quite a big fan of his, but I think he needs to mix it up a little bit. I know I'm going off topic a little bit, I do apologise. But thank you for your tweet, Charlie, and we've had one in from @Sean Blackford. And the tweet reads, yes, we've got an agreement there that there only should be the main WWE title in this current climate. But thank you for your tweet, Sean. We've also got one in from @Dan, the TNA man. Good Twitter handle right there. And the tweet reads, 100% the World Heavyweight Championship is ridiculous in this climate, and by having only one main belt could help elevate the status of the IC title. Without a shadow of a doubt, I think the IC title at the moment is very much below. You know, obviously you've got the World Heavyweight title, which I think is more to what the IC title used to be in, say, 2000. That was that belt that, you know, the upper mid-card guys would have. That's what the World Heavyweight title is now. Then you've got the IC title, which is kind of below that with the US title, whereas those belts really should be more for the guys that are getting ready to go, you know, to go onto the main WWE title reigns. That's what it really should be about. But thank you for your tweets, everybody. And you know, it's a discussion that is really something we like to touch on here on the Gorilla Report this week in terms of the titles and what should be vacated, you know, what should be taken off. I mean, that's just a shame. It really is a shame with the world title. I mean, you know, it was such a good belt back in the day when it was the brand extension. It had such a lot more of a meaning, and now it's just, what is the belt now? But thank you very much, everybody, and when we get back after this, folks, we're going to be doing the first part of the Noam Dar interview. This is a good little part. He talks about his time getting into the business. That's coming up next on the Gorilla Report. Right, guys, we are back on the Gorilla Report, and I am now joined by a gentleman who is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best names going in the UK in the wrestling world right now. This man has been on fire. He has been having tremendous matches with whenever an international name has ever come over, with the likes of an AJ Styles or an Davey Richards, Jay Lethal, John Morrison. This man has been making noise for all of the right reasons. I am so chuffed that this gentleman took the time out of his day to come on the show today. I am joined by none other than Noam Dar. Welcome to the Gorilla Report.
Right, thanks for having me, Ollie. That was some introduction.
Not a problem. You definitely deserve it. For what you're doing right now is so nice to see. I mean, you're such a young man, but what you're doing in the ring is just tremendous, and you know, we're going to touch on all of that. But okay, so let's start this interview as always, as I always will. Growing up. Let's talk about your growing up. How was the growing up for you, my friend?
growing up as in before wrestling, or
just like before the wrestling, just your early sort of growing up. How was growing up for you?
Well, I was born in Israel.
Yeah.
And I moved to Scotland when I was 5. And I grew up in quite a small town called Ayr.
Yeah.
So obviously I still had my Israeli heritage, instilled into me. But definitely, as you can hear, I've got a very strong Scottish influence in my life now as well.
Yeah.
School was good. Nothing too bad to report. And again, obviously, I'd like to say that I started watching wrestling at 5 because the whole family crowded round the TV and one of those kind of nice cliche Saturday afternoon stories.
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunately, wrestling came quite late on to me. It was obviously I was aware of wrestling, but I didn't start watching it until my grandpa got Sky. And even when he got Sky, I could only watch SmackDown at the weekend, and I couldn't watch Raw because I had school the next day. And Sky Plus wasn't around. I started doing like videotaping and that, but that was a bit too much hard work and quite expensive. I've got over there right behind me WrestleMania 20 on VHS tape and that, but unfortunately I didn't get the full shebang, the full fandom.
Yeah.
And until after a few years of watching.
Okay. So you're the same age. You're 20, right? Am I correct? You're 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're very much same style. I mean, I'm 21, but very much the whole Sky. Well, in my family, we got the Sky, and very much SmackDown was that thing that they just threw out on a Saturday morning. We didn't get.
That was it. Yeah.
That was it. Right then, it was the when you're at school tomorrow, we got SmackDown. It was always that thing just after Live and Kicking. But so let's talk on about what age were you when it was like, this is something I really want to pursue as a job. I want to go out there and I want to be a professional wrestler. What age were you when this started coming around in your mind?
Well, I never looked at wrestling as a career option, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I had a friend who was a couple of years older than me, and he was really into wrestling. He knew about ROH and all the independents in America and Japanese wrestling, and he knew a further spectrum than Eddie Guerrero and Rhino from Saturday morning SmackDown. Mm-hmm. So he actually went down to Hammerlock in London. It's recently actually stopped operating and done a training seminar down there. And from that he got the reference to go to the school in Glasgow, which is now the PBW Academy, it's known as.
Okay.
Again, the only reason I went along with him is because we'd been doing backyard wrestling for a couple of months. That term that, it's like Voldemort's name, you don't want to say backyard wrestling, but that's what we'd done, us and a few friends, and for me, that was good enough, just kind of having a play around in the back garden. So I tagged along with him because it was a Sunday and I didn't have anything better to do, if I'm honest. And then from there, I realised there was this whole other world that's British wrestling, and wrestling didn't belong only to Americans in WWE, and that's what I believed for a long time.
Yeah.
So from there, from age 14, I was training at PBW Academy.
Okay, so the PBW Academy. So let's touch on that then. So a lot of guys that I've spoke to in the past about their experiences at a training academy, some good, some bad. How was the PBW Academy? Let's talk about that.
I'd probably say one of my favourite things about it was everybody was there to help each other. There was no egos, and there was no kind of people that thought they were better than others. We were trained properly in that sense of locker room etiquette and how to deal with other trainees and other people in the business.
Yeah.
So that was drilled into all of us from quite almost from the first day. So it was very rarely that there was someone in the training school that didn't get along with another person. And I think we covered a lot, and we had a couple of trainers, Kid Fight being the head trainer, but Kid Fight always brought in a lot of international guest seminars, and still does to this day. He really provides a good service, and it's a broad service as opposed to some schools that maybe just kind of dictate their opinions and their thoughts on wrestling. So it was very open. I think it also was a real benefit that the first 6 months of my training, I wasn't allowed, and the people that started with me wasn't allowed into a ring until after they thought we were ready, because we were told that the ring is a privilege, not a right. And I think that's, now looking back on it, I can see the merit in that system. Obviously at the time I thought it was shit and I wanted to just try and do a moonsault or something, but now I can understand why. And I think a lot of people now certainly take ring training for granted, and some schools provide 3-4 training days a week, and if I had that opportunity, I know I'd grabbed at it. But I think a lot of people now are just kind of certainly taking what they have in the front doorstep for granted. And on the flip coin of that, there's a lot of people out there that travel a couple of hours just to train on some mats for a few hours on a Sunday morning. So kudos to them. But that's how I done it. It was a couple of hours of travelling every Sunday. It's not like I had money. I was still at school. And there was times when we trained in the unit at Christmas, there was no heating, there was no electricity, so it was freezing in the winter, and it was Scottish hot in the summer.
Yeah, of course. And you touching on the whole, I like that whole motive with that training school, is the fact is they were only going to put you in the ring when they felt you was ready. It wasn't one of these deals where you've only been there a small time and it's like, well, let's get you straight in the ring, because I know there's some places out there that are doing that, and these young guys are getting injured, and it's always very bad for business. So you can tell very much a very well run school from the sounds of it, from what you've been saying. So let's talk about your first match then. Okay, so you've had all this training, and it's now that time. They've said, what, let's get you in the ring, let's give you your first proper match, and let's see what you can do. So your first match, let's talk about that.
My first match was the 28th of June in 2008. I'd been training around 7 months. And it was actually, I'd only probably been doing ring training, I'd say a few weeks before the match was booked. And it was a funny story actually how it happened. Drungen is not too far from my house where the show was. And initially the match was meant to be me and the friend that I started training with, who obviously no longer wrestles now. We were going to go against Fight Club. And at the time, Fight Club, the original Fight Club, not the one with Liam Thompson in. And at the time, Ross and the judge were known as a couple of badasses. So we were extremely nervous, and we're winding each other up for weeks and weeks that we were going to get brought into the business the hard way, like we'd heard all the kind of war stories and stuff. So it was more kind of, I don't think there was much excitement there as opposed to anxiety. And then come the day of the show, actually, there was a flip around in the card, and I wrestled a singles match against Kid Fight, Ross Watson, obviously, who was one half of Fight Club and my head trainer as well. So that certainly put me at ease to go against someone that not only is extremely proficient and experienced, but someone that knew my capabilities at the time. I think this is a major problem nowadays, as young guys with a lot of talent and potential, when given a stage to show what they can do, they're not put in the wrong match. I would say they're just kind of put in a situation where their capabilities aren't enhanced, and that's really what Ross gave that opportunity to me. He knew exactly what I was at the time good at and what I wasn't good at. So it was a nice smooth match, and
of course. Of course, with him being your head trainer, that's just great for you. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy, he's the one who's been training you up the most, and it's like you're getting that match with him. So he's gonna know what to do with you, and I'm guessing it was a good match. I mean, for me, I enjoyed it. I've still got it in DVD. Obviously, I'll keep it for a rainy day. I can't remember too much of it. I'd probably say I can only remember the entrance dead vividly. But it certainly was in the catalogue of first ever show like a trainee on a show for the first time. I'm sure it wasn't the worst, but certainly it wasn't the best. Yeah, of course. It was kind of one of them things where you were like, there's still definitely room to improve on this, but for a first match, you know what, I'm glad it went the way it did. That's nice. So let's talk about another thing. Let's talk about, a lot of wrestlers always say, was there ever that doubt with when you got into the business? Was there ever that sort of doubt in your head? Did you ever feel that sort of, I don't know, that way you felt, you know what, is this going to really go to, you know, do you know what I mean? Like that sort of doubt. Have you ever had?
No, I understand the question, yeah. It's funny because I remember like the first 6 months to a year of my, wrestling on shows. I was working only in Scottish shows, and again with a core group of guys that I either came up with through the training school or people that knew me from the training school because I was always at the shows and helping out and whatnot. You know, guys like Lionheart, Red Lightning, Wolfgang, all these kind of Scottish guys that were at the top when I was still training and still kind of coming up. So I think I was quite sheltered in a way where I was like, well, I'm doing good on these shows and people seem to like me as in other workers and trainees. There doesn't seem to be a lot of, I don't want to use the word politics, but unfortunately that's the best word to describe it. You know, a lot of politics backstage. Everyone kind of, to an extent, got along and it all seemed to be quite a kind of happy environment. And again, it was only something that I'd done at the weekends. I was still, very in love with school life. I wasn't one of these kind of people that hated school and only waited for the weekend. I still had kind of that side of my life.
Of course,
So, but I'd say probably as I progress, and it's funny, I spoke to a few people like this, the more I progress, the more I maybe get in doubt or become more realistic or self-conscious, which is weird. Because, I remember wrestling like my 4th match in front of like 60 people outside of Glasgow and thinking I was a fucking man. And now I can wrestle on all these great shows in the UK, as you know, and feel like I shouldn't even be on the card as some of the other talent in the UK. But again, I think for me that works as a positive because it keeps me level-headed and realistic and always, working towards something as opposed to, unfortunately, guys that you see that that may think the opposite of that.
Yeah, of course. I think that really speaks a lot about you as a person. I think definitely speaks that you are very much a genuine cat in the game, and you're not one of these guys that's like getting too big-headed, and you're taking it all in your stride, and you're just, for what you're saying is you're really just, it's about that next match for you, and it's like, how can we progress even more? You know what I mean? And that I think that is a very good sort of mindset to be in.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, not a problem.
Like, unfortunately, the whole situation with egos and whatnot, I think it's just a little bit hard to get an ego in this level if, the Monday morning you're still getting the bus into town, or, you're going home to play your Xbox, and your bank account isn't exploding.
Of course.
So, I understand people that can get situational confidence in wrestling, and that's good, but if unfortunately there's a real life outside of wrestling at this level, it's not like every day of my life's consumed by wrestling in the sense that I'm always on the road and at that kind of higher echelon of working in a professional company. So it's good to have that balance in life, and I think some people don't, and that's where that they rely so much on wrestling that they unfortunately think incorrectly.
Sure, I know what you mean. It's like they put all their eggs in one basket with it just being the wrestling thing. That they don't think, well, there is a lot more going on around me besides this. That they almost get too much into it, perhaps, or and they kind of just get lost with it all in the long run. But okay, so let's talk about, so as I say, talking about, you've been taking it in your stride, and you've been getting to work in the last couple of years. You've really been getting some really brilliant opportunities with the chance to get to work with some of the top names from America, from the likes of the WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor. You've had some great matches with the likes of Davey Richards. I remember I was there for that. Jay Lethal. John Morrison, another one for Preston, and these guys that you've been able to work with. These guys are veterans of the game. What they're doing. What kind of advice, words have these guys really said to somebody like yourself who is really just getting, you're still a young guy and you've got your future ahead of you. What kind of advice have they really given you in the past?
It's you can work out 100 matches, and only learn maybe 5 things out of those 100 matches. Luckily for me, I was putting ultimate learning experiences against these guys who, like you said, are not only at the top of the game, but they're renowned for being at the top of the game. Sure. And really the learning experience from these guys was invaluable, and it's hard to quantify it in words as to exactly, this guy helped me with this and this guy helped me with that. But I'd say that all of them, the most interesting thing was all of them had a kind of general similarity in how they conduct themselves and how they work with you and how they, perform. And for me, that was that verification that I needed as, okay, they're the kind of guys I want to hopefully become similar to in the sense of professionalism and how they work. And that's what I took away from a lot of these guys.
That's definitely a good thing. These guys, they've had the worldwide experience, and it's nice that you know where you want to go, and it's like to get to work with these guys. Really, they are like that, almost that. What's that word? They're setting that standard, and it's like you're getting to work with them, and every match you've had, I'm guessing, you're learning just that little bit more of what these guys are doing in the ring. Role models. They're very much a role model to
100%.
And that's the word right there, role model, and that's definitely 100%. Okay, so let's now talk about ICW. Of course, the Scotland promotion. They're doing some absolutely terrific stuff right now. I mean, they recently had, of course, they did the show over the Fringe Festival weekend, and they had, was it Grado versus Cole. Of course, you've worked for ICW on a couple of occasions. Talk to the viewers about ICW and really just what to expect, and your experiences working for the ICW promotion.
I think I'll pretext ICW by saying this, that ICW, and I think this is the majority of its success comes from this, is that ICW's almost transcended being a wrestling show. Obviously, each card is stacked and the matches are phenomenal and all the guys step up their games, but there's plenty of companies in the UK, in my opinion, that has cards just as good and, provide the same level of entertainment for a wrestling fan. But what ICW has above all these companies, and rightly so, the success that they're having, is it's more of an experience. And, that's extremely cliched to say it's an experience. It sounds like I'm talking about Disneyland or something. But for me, that really is. And it's completely overwhelming, from the day. It's like a day out for wrestling fans, ICW. It's like an experience that they can't miss. And it's like, for some people, they see it as a day to find out why everything happened at the last show, or a day to go out with all their mates and be entertained through the medium of wrestling, or just in general insanity of the company, pun fully intended. And also, I think that Mark Dallas, the ICW promoter, is not only is he extremely passionate about his promotion and his company and his vision, because there's a lot of promoters that are equally as passionate and have the same vision. But I think what's different about Mark Dallas is that he literally sees what he wants the company to be, and then makes it exactly like that, and that's something that's extremely hard to do. And again, ICW has done something that again a lot of promotions can't do. They build names out of local guys, and the names become a bigger draw than the actual word wrestling, and that's something really special, that people come to see specific names, the likes of Grado, Red Lightning, Andy Wild, Wolfgang. They come to see these names as entertainers. They don't come to see the show because they've seen a poster with the word wrestling on it, and that's a major difference. And I mean, there's promotions that obviously can do that, but the fact that ICW also does it off local guys and makes stars out of guys that have been with the promotion since day one, and they don't need that outside influence from Americans and Japanese and etc. Makes it all the more special. So it's a great company to be a part of, and I'm lucky to be within that atmosphere of work. And I can remember doing the first comeback show in 2000 and I want to say the start of 2009. They had like the first comeback show. I wasn't there for the original ICW. That was way back when Drew Galloway was still around here. And you know, just from that day, there may only have been about 20-30 people in the crowd in the venue that they sold out last week. There was about 20-30 people, and it was the same group of guys, give or take. Some are in jail and some have stopped wrestling. But again, Mark Dallas had that vision, and he literally knew exactly how he wanted ICW to become. It wasn't a case of giving here or taking and compromising. It was literally, here's my vision, these are my boys, and that's exactly what I want them to be and how I want them to work in this company. And he's done that, and he's continuing to do that. And I would say that in many situations, there's not a single show that can top an ICW show.
Yeah, of course.
In the UK, obviously, I'm not talking about Monday Night Raw. But I mean, if you ask ICW fans, they'll prefer ICW 100 times over Monday Night Raw.
Fair enough. I mean, I've not actually had the pleasure of actually getting to go to an ICW show. I really want to try and get to one before the end of the year.
Yeah. Everyone is worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean every single one. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've seen a lot of the what they're doing on the YouTube page, and that's quite really where I'm really getting to access the product. And I think that they're doing an absolutely tremendous job down there. So I'm definitely, fingers crossed, hopefully try and make the trip up there at some point in the near distant future, and definitely check them out. Alright folks, I just want to thank Noam Dar for coming on the show today. We've got him all over again next week for part 2 of the Noam Dar interview, and let's just say it is good to be back. I'm glad to be back doing the Guerrilla Report, Season 2, Episode 1, and until the next time guys, keep on watching your professional wrestling. We'll see you next week guys.